The seven kings of hell, also known as the seven emperors of hell, or seven princes of hell, are the highest authority in hell, ranking above the Ars Goetia and all other demons and fallen angels. Even though they're known as the seven kings, there has always been far more than seven. History fall from grace. The seven kings were originally high-ranking angels that resided within heaven. During their time in heaven, they developed a camaraderie with one another and often bonded over certain topics during discussion. Due to their high-ranking status amongst the angelic choir, they were revered and praised, with some even being chiefs of the choirs they were in. However, it was not until Lucifer declared war against the Almighty that they found themselves uniting as leading forces for the Morning Star's army of rebel angels. Each of the then princes would rebel for their own personal reasons or beliefs. The only exception to that would be Belfagor, as he chose neither God nor Lucifer's side during the rebellion. These seven rebel angels individually fought some of the mightiest angels only to fall to their power, thus developing fiercely antagonistic relationships with said angels for eons to come. Rulers of hell. The seven rebel angels were horribly or fatally injured during their violent battles against the archangels. These battles left scars on their bodies as a reminder of their sins, as well as their hatred towards their respective enemy archangel. The first three to awaken from their impact in the abyss were Lucifer, Beelzebub, and Samael. This resulted in the three becoming the most pivotal and powerful monarchs that lorded over the other rebel angels. Additionally, due to the seven being the first to land in the abyss, they became the first chosen rulers. The abyss eventually transformed into hell due to the effects of their impact. After awakening and recovering, the fallen angels decided they needed a form of ruling government in their new plane of existence. Some vied for power, but undoubtedly, the ruler of hell at the time was the leader of the fallen angels, the charismatic morning star, Lucifer, who established himself as the supreme sovereign of hell, or emperor, with Satan and Beelzebub close behind him. The other rebel angels that made up the seven became supreme rulers that lorded over the other lesser nobles as well. For centuries, hell was organized by Lucifer into the ruling body called the Seven Kings. Alongside himself, Satan and Beelzebub formed the satanic triumvirate. Over time, their power grew and they usurped dominion over all of the lower planes, leaving Lucifer and Satan as the true rulers, whilst Beelzebub became a second in command who aided the great fallen angels. Meanwhile, the others ruled over their own areas of land, where each king was responsible for their own subjects and lands. Many enjoyed how organized the system was, though a select few hated being forced to the bottom, while others reigned at the top. Corruption of man. As time passed, it was revealed that due to the nature and actions of the princes, they began to symbolize the first sins that plagued mankind until the end of days. As such, each of the seven kings became the physical representations of the seven deadly sins. This allowed them to mislead humanity into serving their twisted desires while turning them away from God and heaven. This resulted in the damned souls being used for either the king's own gain or enlisting the souls in the hell's legions during the final battle between heaven and hell. Several thousand years passed before Mundus, the son of Lucifer and Lilith, usurped his father's throne and replaced him as the head prince amongst the seven. The six other ruling kings found Mundus to be nothing more than a whiny and bratty child that mulled over the expansion of his kingdom across all foreign realms, despite the policy and treaties that were established between the Abrahamic, hell, and the Hellenic underworlds. Regardless, the princes were given the opportunity to truly plunge the world into darkness and sin through the use of the convergence. Mundus had Mulciber craft the seven gates of hell across the seven continents of the world. The gates in question acted as conduits for the dimensional energy that ran amok through the main plane of reality, which in turn allowed the demons of hell safe passage through the gates and unto the earth. Furthermore, each of the princes were positioned over their respective gates, allowing them to exert more of their influence across 7 points of the world. Because of the darkness they spread, all manner of fiends, creatures of the night, and other abominations emerged from the darkest corners. Kingdoms fell into ruin, religious folk forsook their faith, alchemists went mad, and so forth. They garnered the servitude of several humans who would plead to be in their employ, becoming Shalayas. That particular era was dubbed by authors and scholars as the Dark Age, end of the Dark Reign. The Dark Age came to its end when Sparta, the legendary Dark Knight, rebelled against his masters. having been inspired and enlightened by a maiden who showed him the strength and beauty of humanity. Mundus and his armies were the first to fall by his might, due to the gate used by the Dark Emperor being destroyed and sealed away by a powerful spell. This spell required the blood of the maiden and Sparta's own power, which in turn split the gate into 2 locks fashioned like amulets. Each of the other 6 kings were confronted by Sparta and the allies he made along the way. The devil kings met their end by his sword, and instead of using the original method to seal Mundus away, Sparta destroyed the gates used by the devil princes with Yamato, a dark forged blade that served to counter the dimensional energies of the convergence. With each defeat of the kings, their influence over the lands where the gates were built waned and faded completely. After Sparta's legendary final battle against Satan and his subsequent imprisonment by the Dark Knight, the Age of Darkness finally came to an end with the defeat of the 7 kings and the destruction of the gates of hell. The first king of hell, Lucifer, pride. Lucifer, or Lucifer Morning Star, formerly known as Hellel, also known as Satan, the devil, Lightbringer, the Light-bearer, and the Morning Star, was one of the earliest of God's creations and the twin brother of Michael. He was regarded as the wisest, greatest, and most beautiful angel in all of creation, having virtually no equal with only God being his superior. Lucifer was said to be the brightest in all of creation and was the most revered to and the most praised among the angels for his beauty and power. This, in the process, caused Lucifer to be prideful of himself. While he is regarded as an archangel, Lucifer is also said to be a seraphim and the first one to be created from the choir. Thus, he was appointed as the prince of the choir. Lucifer illuminated the pathways to paradise for departed and misguided souls, burning through the shadow of death to reveal the morning of Jehovah. He is infamously known as the angel that rebelled against God in heaven. He was also the overarching antagonist during the Illuminati's attacks on society, manipulating individuals to create events that will lead to the Morning Star's release from his tomb. His release also triggered the start of the apocalypse and became hell-bent on creating a new world order in the wake of the old world's destruction and establishing himself as the new God for the sake of being freed from his Father's plans. Lucifer is described as being the most beautiful and brightest angel in existence, regarded as the pinnacle of wisdom and beauty. His beauty exceeded all other angels in heaven, which is certainly impressive as an angel's appearance is indescribably immense to the point where a mere glimpse would make a mortal or even an immortal go mad from their sheer beauty and power. He is noted to have 6 colossal whitish gold wings, said to look as though it were made of light. According to the Old Testament, when Lucifer was in heaven, his clothing was adorned with every precious stone: red carnelian, chrysolite, white moonstone, beryl, onyx, jasper, sapphire, turquoise, and emerald, all beautifully crafted for him and set in the finest gold. However, his wings have shifted into various shades of dark red during his rebellious stage and later becoming shades of black when he fully rebelled. His wings were burned off during his fall and mutated into giant red chiropteran wings, although his wings would also take the appearance of those that is lightly burning, singed black like charcoal, while embers would flutter off the burned wings. Lucifer can also take different appearances and forms. The avatars he has assumed throughout the centuries have been immortalized in medieval and Renaissance art and imagery. Among his avatars, the most well-known ones are him having the appearance of a satyr, similar to the Greek god Pan, the other being a serpent, a charcoal-colored humanoid with large stag-like antlers reminiscent to a wendigo, a teal or maroon-colored humanoid with a skull-shaped face and large black horns that curve upwards bearing a starry pattern. Much like Satan, he is also capable of shape-shifting into other creatures. While Lucifer's true form could not be described in simple words, he is shown to be a supremely beautiful and handsome being whenever he assumes a more human-like form in order to walk among the mortals. He possesses bright golden eyes, which turn red whenever he is enraged, or black with orange irises, and ginger curly hair, which was a gold blonde before he fell. His facial features are extremely well-defined, stated to be perfect like a marble statue and being described as picturesque and like a painting. Lucifer's left hand and forearm, however, is burned a blackish teal from constraining the secret fire in his left hand. While Lucifer's face is described as being beautiful, some notice it to be also sad and pitiful. In fact, Risa Colton describes his face as the kind that has people's best interests at heart and with great alluring and seductive calmness that one could easily forget his inner malevolence. The second king of hell, Belfagor, Sloth. He is said to be the biblical enemy of the sixth Sephiroth, the patron angel of beauty. As the patron demon of dispute, perhaps their adversarial relationship exists because beauty should never be disputed, as it is in the eye of the beholder, and some can find the beauty in everything. If Belfagor were to become too influential in the world, then the beauty of it all would become tainted, causing ruination. Inventions created by followers of Belfagor will invariably promote the further decadence of the human species. Sometimes possessing alien geometries and illogical structures, these machines on occasion will be capable of incredible technological feats. But despite their functionality, any who succeed in creating these devices will progressively grow slothful and immoral through the usage of these inventions. As the mental and physical state of the inventor deteriorates, so too will the invention until both are destroyed. Time in heaven, history, Belfagor, then known as Belfagel, was once part of the choir of principalities. During his time in heaven, Belfagor was a friend of Asmodeus and Mammon, though he did not exactly enjoy his angelic duties and preferred to laze around in the luxury of heaven, foreshadowing his slothful tendencies. Moreover, Belfagor enjoyed crafting strange and intricate objects from all manner of material he could find, which, according to him, was his outside hobby. Fall from grace. Unlike the majority of rebel angels, Belfagor did not initially join Lucifer's side after he declared war against heaven, nor was he fighting against the rebellion at God's side either. Despite not being part of Lucifer's rebellion, the fact that he refused to join God's side and instead stood idly earned him his father's punishment, and he was cast down to hell alongside all the other rebel angels, transforming him into the archdemon of sloth. Belfagor, along with Asmodeus and Mammon, were soon awakened by the sound of Lucifer's voice calling out to them from the newly created chasm that was created from the impact of their fall. This new realm would come to be known as hell. Rally in pandemonium. It is indeed true that an idle mind is the devil's workshop. Tot Lucifer defending Belfagor's nomination. Despite not being part of the original rebellion to overtake heaven, Belfagor quickly rose through the demonic hierarchy due to his great contributions to the construction of Pandemonium, the newly founded capital of hell. Given his talent and interest in machinery, he participated in the crafting of the many evil mechanical inner workings of the capital, whilst Lucifer and Mammon worked on both the exterior and interior. During the Great Rally, Belfagor became anointed as one of the 7 kings of hell, along with Beelzebub, Mammon, Asmodeus, Leviathan, Satan, and Lucifer. This rise in rank for Belfagor resulted in much confusion and disruption amongst the crowd of demons, who largely viewed Belfagor as the laziest and least threatening among them. However, Lucifer recognized the tremendous potential within Belfagor and defended his nomination. Belfagor was known to not migrate from one place to another as often as other demonic monarchs, preferring to remain in the same location within hell. He will only put in the effort to turn away from his work if something actually catches his interest. One such occurrence was when he had been dispatched to Earth on a mission by Satan. While on Earth, the Demon King has found a particular affinity for Paris, France, where he now resides hidden deep within the catacombs of the city. According to Duplanty's Dictionnaire Infernal, he now serves as Hell's ambassador to France. Consequently, he is also the adversary of Mary Magdalene, one of the patron saints of France. Time on Earth. After achieving this new status in the demonic hierarchy, Belfagor was sent on a reconnaissance mission by Satan to find out if there really was such a thing as married happiness on the planet Earth. Rumor of such a thing had reached the demons, but they knew that people were not designed to live in harmony. Belfagor is known for giving people wild ideas that ultimately result in their destruction. He seduces people by inspiring them with ideas for ingenious inventions that will make them rich and famous, but in the process he will corrupt them, causing them to grow selfish and paranoid of someone stealing their invention and success. Despite his desire to remain in hell and avoid hard work, Belfagor would eventually manage to accomplish several exploits during his time on earth via his emissaries, with the most notable was when he was posing as a pagan deity and leading the Moabites astray from the path of God. During this time, Belfagor was worshipped as Baal Peor. He was treated as a phallic deity associated with sex, orgies, and all forms of debauchery in general that continued all the way up until the Dark Reign. While acting as a false god, Belfagor's experiences would soon convince him that the rumor of married happiness was groundless. During Exodus, as Baal Peor, some factions of Israelites started making sacrifices to Belfagor. The reason for this is because they began having relations with the women of Moab, who seduced them to their local god. Regardless of the reason, these sacrifices enraged Moses so much that he began to condemn those who were worshiping Belfagor to death. By the time the sacrifices to Belfagor were eliminated, 24,000 people had been killed by Merihim, who was the plague that was summoned by Moses and the incarnation of God's most terrible wrath, the third king of hell, Mammon, greed. Mammon, also known as Mammon or Plutus, is a powerful fallen angel that is commonly personified as greed and is the noble demon lord of avarice, richness, abundance, prosperity, wealth, and injustice, most often personified as a deity. He is the demon that forged Hellboy's right hand of doom and gave knowledge to mortals on the creation of homunculi. In his appearance, Mammon appears as a wolf-like demon of wealth, especially given that wolves would be associated with greed in the Middle Ages. Mammon's skin appeared to be entirely made of a golden material, but with several black scorched marks. He had single curved spikes jutting out of his elbows, 2 other spikes out of his shoulder blades, and finally his knees. His feet resembled those of some kind of eagle or dragon, and his hands resembled the claws of a dragon. His tail was also that of a dragon's. His head, on the other hand, resembles that of a wolf with no visible lips, thus allowing his fierce dagger sharp teeth to be visible. He had bright golden amber eyes with a black sclera. When unfolding his wings, they are also of a gold color, though the tips of his secondary feathers are a faded black, with the greater secondary coverts being a scorched black. History. Fall from grace. During his time in heaven, he was depicted as forever looking downward at heaven's golden pavement rather than God himself. In fact, Mammon's obsession with gold was to the point where he did not even care about Lucifer's rebellion, but due to the fact that he cared more about material wealth than God, he was cast out by the archangel Gabriel. After the rebellion in heaven, Mammon was banished to hell, where he is the one who finds underground precious metal that his demonic companions used to build their capital city, Pandemonium, by Lucifer's order. Mammon counsels the devils to be happy with what they have got and to create a home for themselves in hell. Treasure of hell. At some point during further construction, Mammon and Mulciber discovered the substance known as necroplasm during their cultivation of the abyss and transforming it into the kingdom of hell. Upon this discovery, they would take this substance, cultivate, and later mass produce it for other beneficial means. It is mainly exclusive to the 8th circle of hell within the Malebolge. The production of necroplasm gave way to the creation of Basileus and the Hellspawn. Mammon also crafted the enigmatic right hand of doom alongside Belfagor, and both he and Azazel believed that, with this object, which is the key to the outer verse, they can unleash and maybe even control the Ogdru Jahad known as Yog-Sothoth, using the ancient deity to exact their vengeance against God in heaven. In addition, Mammon crafted the hand in order to conceal the power of Vril within it, acting as a container of sorts, and did so after Lucifer was usurped by Mundus. He feared what would happen should Mundus assume his control over the secret fire, and thus opted to hide it from the Dark Emperor inside the right hand of doom. The right hand of doom would not be used until thousands of years later, where Mammon, alongside Dagon and Astaroth, were to look after Azazel's son, Anung and Rama. The 2 demons witnessed the birth of the Cambion in hell, and then cut off his right hand to graft the right hand of doom onto him. Much later on, Mammon, with the aid of Mulciber, created the legendary twin blade, which was made from the bones of a fallen angel, salt that was crystallized from the tears of Michael, then melted down with the ichor of a god into Damascus steel. The twin blade is capable of killing almost anything, It is unknown why Mammon created such a weapon, although it is believed that Mammon was aware of Satan's true intention of destroying creation to start over and knew that he would be among those that would not be spared from his mission. Thus, Mammon would oversee the creation of the twin blade in a bid to kill Satan simply for self-preservation. Time on earth, Mammon is credited as the creator of alchemy, specifically credited as the one who bestowed knowledge to humans on what the proper alchemical compounds are needed to create gold. Mammon's bestowal of such forbidden information also led to the creation of the homunculi, humanoid entities of great power and strength, which in turn makes him the indirect creator of such creatures. He first showed the power of alchemy in Egypt in 300 BC to a metallurgist sorcerer named Rani, along with his disciples, who were also at the time members of the recently formed Illuminati. With Mammon's guidance, he creates a complete homunculus, using his and their blood as a medium. This complete, omniscient homunculus, shaped in the likeness of Rani, observes this, Rani and others, out of curiosity and slight envy. It then decides to move about its own accord while being under the discreet guidance of Mammon. Mammon is also the father of the Greek god of wealth, Plutus. He appeared before the goddess Demeter in the form of a golden-winged man with scorches on his body that looked as though boiling liquid was poured on him. While the details of this tale is scarce, the few that know of it all say that Mammon seduced the goddess with the false promise of relieving her misery. Their sexual encounter led to the birth of Plutus. Hypnos regards it as more of a sordid tale, where Demeter was at her lowest point and Mammon took advantage of it. Why Mammon wanted to lay with the goddess was unknown. The fourth king of hell, Beelzebub, Gluttony. Beelzebub, a former seraph turned high-ranking archdemon, is considered one of the 7 kings of hell and oversees the order of the fly. He, alongside Satan and Lucifer, form the triumvirate of hell and is additionally one of the supreme monarchs of the inferno. Beelzebub was an angel, more specifically a seraphim, who was once under the archangel Gabriel and revered as a Philistine deity named Baal-Zebul. Either way, Beelzebub fell and joined with Lucifer to become a high-ranking demon in hell. In Catholic demonology, he is sometimes considered to be one of the first 3 angels to fall from heaven, along with Lucifer and Leviathan. Beelzebub is often confused with Satan, considering the 2 names can be interchanged. However, strictly speaking, they are 2 separate entities. In some tales, Beelzebub led a revolt against Satan, though this is most likely not true, and became the founder of the Order of the Fly. Beelzebub is the chief lieutenant of Lucifer and is one of the most loyal to the morning star. Beelzebub is commonly described as ranking high in the hierarchy of hell. He was of the order of seraphim. Beelzebub is seen as being associated with pride or gluttony, depending on the scholar, and is also the prince of false gods. Flies play a large focus in imagery detailing him, and the malignant spirit can even take the form of flies, according to some history. Fall from grace. Beelzebub came into being shortly before the creation of heaven and the earth, and is one of the oldest angels. Beelzebub was said to be of Lucifer's order, meaning that he was part of the morning star's choir or circle. He was among the angels that Lucifer would converse with amicably outside of his relationship with his siblings, alongside Samael. Beelzebub's ability to keep up with Lucifer impressed the latter with his character and placed great trust in him. At some point before the war in heaven, Beelzebub found and consorted with Naamah, a sister of Eve, who was created to be one of the potential candidates as Adam's wife after Lilith's departure by the Red Sea. Naamah and Beelzebub's sexual encounter resulted in the birth of Abizithabu. Abizithabu grew rapidly and joined the side of his father, leaving Naamah banished from the realm of the divine as a result. Eventually, when the civil war in heaven was brewing, Lucifer chose Beelzebub as his second-in-command for the rebel army of angels. Lucifer led the attack on the front line, while Beelzebub led the support fire a step away from the front, providing the front with enough openings to attack. When Lucifer was confronted by Gabriel, Beelzebub clotheslined the archangel before he could attack the morning star, with the 2 engaging in fierce combat as Lucifer made his way to the Empyrean. In the end, however, Beelzebub was defeated by the archangel. The 5th king of hell, Satan, wrath, Satan, formerly known as Samael, also known as Ha-Satan, or the tempter, the evil one, the adversary, and the devil, is a prominent figure in all Abrahamic religions, though mostly Christianity, playing various roles in their literature. He was formerly an exalted cherub that acted as heaven's arbiter, only to fall from grace when he accused humanity of bringing corruption and destruction upon God's creation. After he fell, he became an accuser towards the human race, testing their morals and punishing them for giving into their sins. In the Hebrew Bible and the New Testament, Satan is primarily an accuser, an adversary, a decidedly malevolent entity, also called the devil, who possesses demonic qualities. He is called the adversary due to the fact that Satan was God's personal arbiter for the afterlife to check if man was worthy of the millennium kingdom, and even when he fell, he was still allowed limited access to heaven. He is known for bringing deception and temptation, and is known as the deceiver who leads humanity astray. Satan is even able to take control of the life of a person in the stead of God, though only to an extent to what God allows. He is a malevolent force that works behind the scenes, animating division and hatred between humans. He was Lucifer's trump card during the civil war in heaven, and his greatest asset during the starting phases of the apocalypse, prophesied as the great red dragon that will destroy the earth. In the Old Testament, a being who is addressed as the Satan is shown to be an angelic member of God's court that requests permission from the Almighty to torment Job in order to test his faithfulness towards God, to which the latter allows. The Satan is described as the heavenly accuser and one that decidedly punishes humans that show doubt in their faith towards God, especially if those humans were chosen by God in the first place. The Satan in the Old Testament is a possible tie-in to the Satan of the New Testament. Since the 9th century, Satan has sometimes been shown with horns, cloven hooves, hairy legs, and a tail, often naked and holding a pitchfork, an amalgam of traits derived from various pagan deities including Pan, Poseidon, and Bes, though he is fully able to completely alter his physical appearance. Biblical authors also use a variety of images to describe Satan as well, such as a snake, a sea dragon, a dark creature of the desert, such as a scorpion, or a king of death in the grave. He is also capable of shape-shifting into such creatures, evident in when he approached Jesus during his 40 days of fasting in the form of a snake, a lion, and even a pillar of fire. Satan's true form, at least one that allows the material plane to encompass it wholly without being torn at the seams, is shown to be absolutely titanic and is akin to that of a mountain that wades in the sea. His head goes above the clouds, his hands could be mistaken for islands, and is clad with ice and crowned with smoke and fire. According to Jesus, he states during his encounter with Satan that the light of the eyes of the devil was like a flame that withers with heat and pierces with a deadly cold. In his more humanoid form, Satan has pale, white skin and numerous veins appearing in his face and body. His hair is black, just like the dark aura that surrounds him, and the globe of his eyes are also black, but the iris is a light yellow. He is much taller than Lucifer, capable of towering over his enemies, and his build is more muscular and larger in proportion compared to Lucifer's more lean body. His hands and forearms are now covered in what appears to be black matter, possibly sulfur. His upper body part is completely exposed, excluding the lower part that is clad in an exoskeleton that is made up of what seems to be thick metallic plates resembling feathers, and the feet are equipped with sharp talons. Before his fall, Satan was also a cherubim and a prince of the choir, showing his status as the supreme cherub as Lucifer is over the seraphim. This would explain why he is sometimes depicted as having 3 heads in his imprisonment, showing that after his fall, his appearance as a cherubim became highly twisted and corrupted. History. Genesis. Satan was then known as Samael, a mighty and great angel who was created by God and Asherah right after the first 5 archangels. Other archangels were created after him as well, with the first among them being Azrael himself, the archangel of death. Samael came into being sometime during the creation of the universe, though the latter was still in somewhat disarray due to the chaos inflicted by the warring factions between the light and the dark. Thus, Samael was tasked by God to repair the discord that was wrought by the darkness. Among this repairing was him banishing the primevals as they lay dormant within what remains of the abyss. He and the Almighty removed the abyss and its inhabitants from God's space of creation, placing it well below the realm which borders the light itself. Samael was given a great hammer by God, used to mend the broken infrastructure of the universe. With each swing, he unleashed a great wave of power that reverberated across reality, affecting that which was broken and properly restoring them to their original form, which was then given a purpose by the 5 archangels. Sparks emitted from his strikes, with these then taken by Lucifer, pouring his light-bringer power within them, then scattering them across the illuminating space to create the stars. On top of that, he also found collaboration with Lucifer and Uriel, often during times where they helped each other craft material suns and spiritual suns, the latter of which would become a lit pathway to where heaven shall be. After the universe's full and proper restoration, Samael was then tasked by his mother, Asherah, to accompany his siblings in the search for any remaining Ogdruhem that managed to flee from their wrath. Samael encountered several and disposed of them with violent efficiency, becoming a venomous sting to the forces of darkness, crippling them before they are thoroughly destroyed by Michael. Among the most prominent during his mission was slaying Lukthu, the birthworm of the Old Ones, who attempted to escape through a singularity before Samael unleashed a mighty swing of his hammer upon Lukthu, smashing it against the surface of the singularity. The impact created a reaction which made the singularity collapse unto the outer God and completely destroy it. When more angels were created and the threat of the Ogdruhem vanquished, Samael reigned over the angels that came before him, which includes the lesser archangels. Heavenly Judge, after the creation of heaven, Samael became an exalted cherub for his power and status, second or even on par with Lucifer himself. He was the chief of the divine council, or the sons of God, overseeing the development of the universe and its creatures. Samael was a judge, also known as an arbiter, and the first among them, determining who or what is worthy to be encompassed in the light and glory of God, but with God's permission, of course. Samael was known to be strict, blunt, and straightforward, with Raphael describing his tongue as a venomous sting, which relates to the meaning behind his name as the venom of God. It was not until God created the first humans that Samael began to change. When God ordered the angels to bow before them, not only did Lucifer refuse, but also Samael, as he could see the destruction and mayhem they would bring. Instead of judging them, he accused them, declaring to God that these creatures are flawed and murderous, and that they are not worthy of being likened in his image. Because of this, God stripped Samael of his status and cast him down from the holy mountain. Upon being cast out, Samael was approached by Lilith, who was Eve's predecessor. While he was initially hostile towards Lilith due to the fact that she was human, she stated that her supposed one purpose in existence, to be subservient to Adam, is nothing but a farce, a blindfold to keep her from finding and achieving a higher goal. She wanted no part in humanity's affairs within the oncoming centuries, and instead would rather be above them than below them. Further going on to say that she shares Samael's view when it comes to the destructive nature of what humans will bring, with no concept of equality between them and their societies. This convinced Samael to have trust in her, and more so when she tended to his injured state. War in heaven. Samael soon joined Lucifer's cause to usurp God's throne and take over creation itself, but Samael was mainly doing it for his own personal goals, and that is to eradicate these humans. Samael saw the evils that mankind would bring, while God would simply sit back on his throne and not raise his hand, and as a result, feeling that his time of being ruler would only make creation fall into chaos. Thus, he needed to remove humans from the equation, as his time spent on them would have an effect on his judgment and decisions. Before all of this, his thoughts of rebellion resulted in the birth of sin, who sprung forth from his head like a bastardized parody of Athena's birth from Zeus's head. Samael ended up mating with Sin, who in turn gave birth to death, though Samael, for some odd reason, could not recall these events. Afterwards, Samael joined forced with Lucifer alongside Beelzebub, and war in heaven soon broke out, with Lucifer leading the charge, Beelzebub acting as his second in command, and Samael being his trump card. Samael easily defeated many of the angels that attempted to stop him, and was even capable of overcoming an archangel or two that engaged him in combat. In one instance, he wrestled with two of the mightiest angels, that being Ariel, the Lion of God, and Hasmed, the angel of annihilation. Ariel subdued Samael by one arm, while Asmodeus subdued him by the other arm, giving Abdiel an opening for him to drive his sword into his chest. However, this only served to infuriate Samael, as the arbiter let out a terrible holler that shook the stars and made angels flee in terror, knocking back Abdiel before doing the same to Asmod and Ariel. Ariel, again, attempted to restrain him by holding the handle of his great hammer against his neck, while Asmod unleashed blows of inconceivable power against Samael, of which were said to have rocked his very being to the core. Samael used the momentum of his hammer to toss Ariel into Asmod before knocking the two angels away with his hammer. It was not until Samael faced Michael alongside Lucifer that he found himself being truly pushed. Seeing Michael's enormous power, Samael assumed the form of a great red dragon, which Lucifer used as his steed, and actually began to overwhelm the great archangel. However, Michael was soon aided by Merkabah, who joined the archangel's battle against the two fallen archangels. Their blows created streaks of dense geometric structures of light that blazed across the sea of stars and set clouds ablaze. The stars surrounding them imploded into supernovas, with the speed of their attacks generating a gravitational field that drew in these battered celestial luminaries, creating a cyclone of destruction. After a long and arduous battle, Michael defeated and terribly wounded both Lucifer and Samael before casting them out of heaven alongside the rebel angels. The sixth king of hell, Leviathan, envy. Leviathan is the demon, lord of envy, chaos, and the sea. He is also one of the seven kings of hell that rules the inferno and acts as its gatekeeper. Leviathan is one of the seven kings of hell and its gatekeeper. Leviathan, as the gatekeeper, is known as the hell mouth, where the mighty demon's mouth is said to represent the gates of hell itself. Leviathan and the gates of hell are inextricably linked to one another. As such, it is said that the demon's very mouth, famously known as the hell mouth, can lead to the depths of the abyss as well, though this may be another entity instead. Leviathan is not a fallen angel, but instead a torn of piece of the Leviathan, the primordial beast of the sea that attempted to devour the moon only to be thwarted by Jophiel. Leviathan is believed to be an entity similar to the demonic counterpart of the behemoth, who the demons tore a piece off to create a powerful demonic being that wields the behemoth's incomprehensible strength and became the cupbearer of hell. History. Background. Leviathan was essentially born sometime during the climax of the war in heaven. Seeing the Leviathan breaching the walls of paradise, Jophiel took notice of the beast making its way towards the moon with the intention of devouring it. The archangel took up her sword and with a swift but mighty swing managed to cut through the Leviathan's seemingly impenetrable hide, deterring it from its course in sheer pain and forcing it to flee. The piece that was cut from the Leviathan was said to have fallen at the exact time Lucifer and his armada of rebel angels were defeated and cast out of paradise before colliding into the abyss. This torn piece of the Leviathan was said to have taken a life of its own from the mixture of heaven's fire and watery chaos, naming itself Leviathan. Due to not being a fallen angel, it did not heed Lucifer's calling when the fallen angel was the first to awaken after their impact from the abyss, instead waking on its own accord, possibly even before Lucifer himself regained consciousness from the fall. Leviathan witnessed the innumerable horde of fallen angels slowly rising up to the call of Lucifer, who rallied them all together and relit their spirits with his words. Despite only being a newly born creation, Leviathan was inspired the morning star's words, and inheriting the Leviathan's envious nature as well as its disdain towards heaven, he became part of Lucifer's cause. The other fallen angels, however, upon noticing Leviathan, were cautious and wary of this new guest, especially since they had to deal with the primevals. Lucifer was only curious in regards to Leviathan's nature, and with a learning capacity of an astonishingly swift rate, presented himself before the morning star, explaining his origins and new purpose, all in thanks to his words, to which Lucifer was humbled by and accepted him into his ranks. The seventh king of hell, Asmodeus Lust. Asmodeus, formerly known as Asmodeus, Asmodel, and Ashmedeva, is a king of demons and earthly spirits, mostly known from the deuterocanonical Book of Tobit. Asmodeus was referred to as one of the seven kings of hell. He also represents one of the seven deadly sins, being lust, and is either a ruthless, brutal monster or a mischievous demon endowed with a playful and satirical genius. Some theologians compared him with Abaddon. In the Talmud, Asmodeus is less malign in character. He appears repeatedly in the light of a good-natured and humorous fellow, though he has his desires turn upon Solomon's wives and Bathsheba. His former form as an angel is Asmodeus, the angel of April and patience who rules the zodiacal sign of Taurus. Asmodeus also has a child or clone, also called Asmodeus, though is usually called Asmodee. It is said that for people who fall under Asmodeus's ways will be sentenced to an eternity in the second level of hell, lust, history, fall from heaven. Asmodeus was originally an angel known as Asmodel and was in the order of the cherubim. Right before the war in heaven, he joined Lucifer's rebellion against the Lord, only to be personally defeated by the archangel Raphael, but not before Raphael brutally tore out the lion part of his body and cast him out of heaven with the rebel angels in tow. Asmodel barely survived the fall due to the injuries inflicted on him by Raphael, but managed to recover. The lion that was originally part of him, now torn, became something of a pet and steed. He also became one of the 7 kings of hell, embodying the sin of lust, and was renamed Asmodeus. Being the demon of lust, he is responsible for twisting people's sexual desires. It is said that people who fall to Asmodeus's ways will be sentenced to an eternity in the second level of hell. He has hundreds of legions of demons under his command. He incites gambling and is the overseer of all the gambling houses in the court of hell. He is also a demon of lechery, jealousy, anger, and revenge. Asmodeus also became a consort of Lilith, though she does not exactly find his presence to be welcoming or tolerable at all. Nevertheless, upon mating with Asmodeus, Lilith produced a second batch of demons, but were lesser compared to the Lilim known as Asmodai, a first generation of incubi but lesser succubi. Encounter with Solomon. When creating his temple, King Solomon invokes Asmodeus to aid in the construction of the temple. The demon appears and predicts Solomon's kingdom will one day be divided. When Solomon interrogates Asmodeus further, the king learns that Asmodeus is thwarted by the angel Raphael, as well as by sheefish found in the rivers of Assyria. He also admits to hating water and birds because both remind him of God. Another legend depicts Asmodeus throwing King Solomon over 400 leagues away from the capital by putting one wing on the ground and the other stretched skyward. He then changed places for some years with King Solomon. When King Solomon returned, Asmodeus fled from his wrath. Befitting his status as the demon king of lust, Asmodeus turns his desires upon Bathsheba and later Solomon's wives, which eventually leads to Solomon's downfall and his disconnection with God. Desiring Sarah. In the book of Tobit, Asmodeus, who fell in love with Sarah, Raguel's daughter, and slays 7 successive husbands on their wedding nights, impeding the sexual consummation of the marriages. He is described as the worst of demons. When the young Tobias is about to marry her, Asmodeus proposes the same fate for him, but Tobias is enabled through the counsels of his attendant angel Raphael to render him innocuous. By placing a fish's heart and liver on red-hot cinders, Tobias produces a smoky vapor that causes the demon to flee to Egypt, where Raphael binds him, though according to some translations, Asmodeus is strangled. Perhaps Asmodeus punishes the suitors for their carnal desire, since Tobias prays to be free from such desire and is kept safe.